Hello. Hello, our viewers. Welcome to you guys. Can you hear me? All right. My name is Okoyemi Imadoye, and I will be joined very soon by Kenneth and Dr. Ojo. They are unavoidably running behind schedule, so we expect them to join the call in the next few minutes. So I am Okoyemi Imadoye. I had my undergraduate degree in medical laboratory science in Nigeria, LabTech specifically, and then what else will I talk about? So yeah, like my current school is University of Utah, and I'm a PhD student at Huntsman Cancer Institute. Currently, my research interest is cancer biology, but in my undergraduate program, I never had the opportunity to do a cancer research, but currently I'm working on cancer research. As time goes on, we can begin to interact and discuss how I made that transition. So, yeah, good evening, Cornelius. Yeah, Dr. Babajide is not here already, but we expect him to join very soon. So, like I said, my undergraduate degree was in medical laboratory science in Nigeria. And so at a point in time, I switched my interest from my undergraduate project to cancer research, which I am currently doing. And so the purpose of today's call is to discuss how you can succeed in your PhD or master's interview. So many things have been said across different fora, and I'm sure you guys are already exposed to several questions that can be asked. But then I will begin to share from my own personal experience. I applied with my bachelor's degree, even though I had a master's degree, but I never used the certificate to apply. So I used my bachelor's degree to apply, and I was opportune to, get many of us. So I got close to, like, I think 7, yeah, got 7 of us, all of them fully funded with my bachelor's degree. So if you are using the same bachelor's degree to apply, either PhD in the US, most especially PhD in the US. So I'm more specific about US because I'm aware there are some countries like UK, like probably some schools in Canada, you might be required to submit your MSc certificate. But here in the US, yeah, you can actually transition from bachelor's to PhD straight away. So sharing from my experience, like I said, I was invited for a lot of interviews, and many of them actually, overlap. And so, thank God for a virtual interview. I was able to like juggle between one school to the other to be able to attend all of them. Yeah, Anthony, thank you. Welcome. Yeah.
All right, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure we have the audio on YouTube.
I think people can hear according to their feedback.
Right.
Yeah, welcome, Dr. Ojo. So you can take it up.
Oh, sorry, I came late, people. Yeah, but I realized you have been doing a great job before I came. on live. So yes, and I know Kenneth just joined, so I'm gonna pause there, okay? Yemi,
Yeah.
and allow Kenneth to introduce himself.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Babajide. I don't know, can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
All right, and hello everyone. Hi, Yemi. Nice to
Hi.
meet you again. Yeah. So my name is Okonkwo Kenneth. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm currently doing my PhD in biological science at St. Louis University here in the United States, and I also serve as a research assistant at the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center here in Missouri, US, and focused on developing perennial crop species that could be used to restore degraded soils and also contribute to food productivity, sustainable agriculture, and combat climate change. And yeah, I'm from Nigeria, like I said, and I had my undergrad in soil science from the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, and my interest centers around sustainable agriculture, improvement of food security, and climate change mitigation. And it's really nice to be here.
Great. So Yemi already started, but let's just start all over again, okay? So we can have a smooth interview here. So let's start with when you received the invitation. So if you could recollect to last year, I think. You know, when did you receive the invitation to interview, and how did you prepare for the date? Let's just start with that. So I'm going to go back to Yemi on that.
Okay. Thank you. I think it's not going to be last year again. It's going to be 2020.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Time flies. Yeah. So my first invitation was November 2021. And this was from University of Oregon State Earth and Science University, OHSU. And I received that around November, probably 28th or 21st, around that time. So, and it was for international applicants, it was virtual. For local applicants, I think they actually so they gave me an option of attending either in person or attending virtually. And because I was expecting, invites from a lot of schools, so I chose virtual because that will give me an opportunity to attend to a lot of interviews around the same time. And thank God I chose that. It actually came the way I envisaged. So after that, I received, several couples of invites again in December, January, February. Yeah, January, February. Altogether, I received close to, I think, 9. Yeah, close to 9 invites. And one of them, out of all the offers I got one straight offer without interview. And that is University of Delaware.
Wow. That's impressive. Well, how about Kenneth?
Yeah, so I could remember in 2021, I got 4 interviews, one from University of Georgia, one from University of California, Davis, one from University of Texas, El Paso, and one from St. Louis University here. Okay. And I then had a repeat of the interview again with the University of, with the professor from the University of, from St. Louis University in January, I can remember. And when I actually got those invites, definitely I nearly freaked out. Mm-hmm. I can remember I was so tensed, and so okay, yeah, I think it's part of the question. What do we do and how do we prepare? So yes. One of the things I did, I can remember I reached out to the doctor that, hey doctor, it don't happen though. These people have actually reached out to me. What do you think and how should I go about it? And then I remember there's this session we had, which is still in our in Best Man Academy YouTube channel on how to prepare for interviews. That particular video really helped me a lot. I had to go through the video. So I'll quickly recap. What I had to do was going through the video, I understood one thing. I had to go back to read my SOP. I read my SOP, understood my SOP. Then another thing I had to do was to quickly go back to the research interest of my professor. These people I'm going to meet, I had to go back, read their research interests, their research activities, understood and know what they are doing. I quickly had to also try to look up some of their recent activities, maybe presentations they had, just something to strike up the conversation with them. And then I had to also go and look at the departments. I could remember I went to go to the departments, because specific departments actually have teams, they have focus, they have goals. I had to also look at what are the current goals, activities this department is working on, and I had to actually plan my answers to suit what the department is actually looking at for. But basically, majority of the work had to be on my professor, what the professor was doing, research activities, and also going back to my SOP and then my CV too. I had to also go back to my CV and look at those experiences, skills I said I had, and how to defend most of those experiences. Yeah.
Good. So, do you have any other thing to add to that, Yemi, before we go to the next question?
Yeah. So just to corroborate what Kenneth has said, what I did when I was preparing for interview was to just like you said, I watched a lot of videos from Best My Academy. I remember a video, you made a video specifically with this kind of chat with a grad student that as at that time. Oh. So I went through that video and I got a lot of insights. And after that, I also sent a follow-up mail to some of my, proposed PI, trying to tell them that I've been invited for interview and I look forward to seeing them, and many of them replied and they were happy to got that response from me. And they were also very excited to meet with me virtually. And so what Kenneth did not say that I did was reaching out to my potential PIs, informing them of my invitation and trying to express my excitement to meet them. Yeah.
So I think so far, I think what I picked up from Kenneth was, we watched some YouTube videos, right? But importantly, you also read your SOP all over again, because I want to stress that because most of the questions you are going to get will be from the documents that you submit, right? So you want to make sure that you actually understand and you can, expand on what, the ideas that you have in your SOP, and also whatever courses you've done, you should be able to remember that you have a background in, XYZ. But today is not about me. Let's talk about you guys, okay? So, and please feel free to, if you want to drop your questions in the chats online, feel free to do that. But I will share the Zoom link for the Q&A if you want to join and ask your question live. But I want to give them the opportunity to, to be really able to explain, their process for their interview. So that's why I've not shared the link now. So please hang in there, okay? So now I'll start with Kenneth on this. When you got the interview, right? So I understand you did a lot of virtual interviews. So can you explain what the experience looked like in terms of meeting with students and professors? So what were the similarities and differences? And you can go over specific questions that you got from these people.
All right, thank you so much for that question, Doc. So I also want to quickly add something. The interviews can come in different forms. I could remember you can apply for a particular program and then you get invited by the admissions committee. They want to review you and admit you. And then that's just it. Just like Yemi did during that process, he was able to also email and invite his potential supervisors or professor that he had emailed before in the department. So it wasn't that it was a specific supervisor. In my case, I actually was interviewed just by specific supervisors that I emailed and they received, and were like, okay, fine, let's have a chat and let me interview you. So most of the times that also serves as an overall interview you might have. I never had a graduate school or graduate admissions team interview. It was direct interview with this professor. So just know that your interview can come anyway. But I noticed it was the same questions that people that I know, the same questions graduate admissions team will ask you. It almost the same thing your supervisor will ask you. So it's just prepare. So for the interview itself, I used to tell people, okay, from my experience, I would say that getting to the interview stage means you're already in. Like these people have seen your application, you are worth it. They just want to see you to know that, okay, this person I've been reading about, I think, let me see if he's a human being or it's just a robot that wrote all these things. Or you just want to come and tell them, yes, it's me, I'm worth it. Give me the admission, or fail me, don't give me admission, I'm not worth it. But for you to get it to that level, you are in already. And so the most important thing for me is just for you to be very, very confident, then speak very, very boldly and loud. Blow your trumpet. I used to tell people, blow your trumpet, but don't overblow your trumpet. Like those your achievements and stuff. Just say it, but don't seem too arrogant. And then another very, very important thing is be very, very short. Like don't overshoot. You have to time your answers, because there's a way you overshoot, you lose your interviewer. Therefore, specific questions, definitely when the interview starts, they will introduce themselves. It might be one person or many people in the team. They will definitely introduce themselves and throw the question to you. May we know you, or can we meet you? And I normally advise people to use less than 2 minutes or to answer this question. And you should start with just your name, where you are coming from, where you had your undergrad, what you had in your undergrad, and your research interests, and experience, and how this research interest and experience has motivated you to go for a PhD program in this field. Definitely the next important question they will always ask is, so what was your motivation for going for a PhD? In all the interviews I had, this question was asked. So what was my motivation for going for a PhD? And definitely you should know your motivation for going for a PhD, starting from your problem statements in your paragraph 1 of your SOP. You should be able to know how to coin out the problem statements and how this has motivated you to go for a PhD. Then the next question I was asked was, so what are my research interests? What are my research interests? So I could remember that particular. So what are my research interests? I have to go back to one or two things I said in my SOP, which should align. Please, it's very, very important. Your research interests should always align with this. If you are being interviewed by a particular professor, let your research interests you're talking about be aligned to what this person is doing. So I have to talk about my research interest in that area. Another question they asked me was about my previous research experiences. So I had to talk about one or two research experiences I've done in the past. I quickly had to also bring out other work experiences and teaching experiences and volunteering experiences I had done before to cover up the little research experience I had. I even had to talk about other stuff just to pad, because I didn't have very huge research experience, but I had to quickly bring in other stuff I had to pad it up. Then another important question they asked me was, why this lab? She asked me why her lab. I can remember. Another one, they asked me why our school, why this department, or they might ask you, what do you want to gain from this lab? Another question, another person asked me was, so what are the research in this lab that got you interested in? So if you have not really researched this lab to know what's going on in the lab, you might not be able to answer that question correctly. So it's always nice to go back to the lab, the professor's work, if possible. But one thing I did that blew off my professor was like, I was even saying, I saw your recent publication on this and that, on that project. And she was like, wow, Kenneth, it's really nice that you have gone out there to read what we have there. And it shows that you are much more interested in our work. So try your best also, if possible. Don't cram it, just try your best. Then one big thing I would tell you to avoid is don't cram. Don't cram your answers. Please just let it flow. Try. You don't have to be perfect. Just let it flow. Once you cram, you miss out a lot of stuff. And then for the interactions, please, it's not even going to be an interview. Like, you won't feel it. It's just like a discussion. Like, no, it was as if I was just chatting with a friend. You know, it was just so smooth. And then the one I had in January was funny. It was 4 hours interview, but it was the easiest interview I've ever had, because it was just each member of the lab came up and I had a chat with them. They were even like trying to bobo me. They were trying to bribe me to choose the school, because everyone was trying to say good things about the lab and the school. So it was just like a chat. And the one I had with every other professor was just chat. So try not to forget, try not to try to be formal and respectful, but just know that it's not something you should be scared. I will stop here. If any other thing come up, I will definitely.
Great. So I hope people are writing stuff down. And this interview will be recorded. It's actually been recorded. So you can come back and view it again. I'm glad you mentioned that it's mostly, especially if you get a one-on-one interview with professors, most of the time they will spend a lot of time marketing themselves and their lab to you. Because at this point, they've seen your work, they've seen your CV, they've seen all your documents, and they know that this person has potential. So if you get an interview, you are already, I think I usually say you're already in the room, right? But your attitude and the way you perform during the interview will show that you are worth staying in the room. You know, you are already in the room, but you have the ability to now stay in the room. So that's really what the interview is meant for. Now, I intentionally chose 2 of you because you had a little bit different experiences. So Kenneth only had one-on-one interviews, right, with professors. But I understand Yemi had grad school, like admission committee interviews. So tell us what that's like, because I know someone here on this chat who has 2 actually. So what's that like? And in terms of, I know some might be multi-day interviews where you will have 2 different days. So in terms of interaction with students and professors, how is that like in your experience?
Yeah, thank you, Doc. Once again, let me say that the interview I did were of various forms. I did with one school that only lasted for a day. I did with some schools that lasted for 2 days over the weekend. I did for schools that involved close to 5 days. And yeah, for the last one, like I said earlier, there was a school I never did interview and I got offer. So those are the forms. Now, in terms of the one I did that involves only 1 day, it was basically with admission committee, like only admission committee, but most of them are actually professors. Some of them are mentioned in my SOP. So my experience here involved is very similar to what Kenneth had in his interview. So it was more or less like, okay, tell us about your research. Why did you choose the school? What do you think we can offer you? Okay, so let me see.
Did you meet with them at the same time or individually?
Okay, so it was individually. So the interview lasted for like 2 hours. So it was like 45 minutes per, professor.
Okay.
Yeah. So and yeah, and so one takeaway I had from that interview is sometimes they ask like a very broad question. Tell us about your research. So if they ask that kind of broad question, now the way I approach it is such a way that I talk about my research experience, my current, what I do as at that time in terms of the research, and what I want to do, like in grad school. And so I try as much as possible to make it align in a situation where there was a little bit of, disalignment. I tried to explain why there was that disparity, because what I did in undergrad was not related to cancer. And so I told them why I had to switch and what I've done, to not make me struggle in cancer research. That time I was fortunate because I had a publication in a PubMed and Scopus Index journal. So I was able to capitalize on that. As a matter of fact, a professor was interviewing me and he has read that paper and we began to discuss. It was like proposed, it was building on what we proposed in that paper as what we can do in the future in the field. I was so much excited that day because, you know, having that kind of conversation with a professor, like building on what you wrote in a paper as what we can do in the field to move the field forward. So I was so much excited that day that that kind of discussion came up. So that is that about telling them about research. Now, for those that involve 2 days, there are a lot of activities. Some of them we pair you with a current grad student that will be your host for the weekend. And so the grad student will reach out to you, will send you an email welcoming you to, you know, the weekend, the recruitment weekend, and asking you to, you know, ask questions. Now, there are questions that are meant for students, there are questions that are meant for professors. Now, if you want to ask about cost of living around the area, like how health insurance works, you know, that kind of question is actually meant for students. So you want to use that opportunity to ask your student host that kind of question. So you want to also ask how life on campus is, what are the resources on campus? Do they have transportation for students free? Do they have you know, public transportation outside the city free of charge? You know, questions like that are for students. You can also ask on a personal level, try to, you know, get an insight from the students, the PIs you are meeting with. Try to know them personal, that they are in terms of their personality, what they like, what they don't like, you know, what if their interest has changed from what is in their website, because sometimes PIs change interest from what is depending on schools, though there are some schools that do not constantly update their website. So they may have a little bit, you know, change of interest that you may not be aware of. So that kind of opportunity will give you, you know, chance to know if a PI has changed, because I interviewed with MSU, Michigan State University, and I kept on talking about what I saw on the website of a PI before the PI actually told me, no, he was no more doing that. He said that he has shifted from that research to another, but then it was not my fault because that was what I could see.
Yeah.
No, but then
I would argue that if they have published in that area, you should probably, I'm not for you, but for the people listening.
Yeah.
So a good practice would be to not just look at the website, but you can Google them on maybe Google Scholar and see what the latest publications are.
Yeah.
So confirm if they are still in the same line.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt. Please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, good addition. So, right, that is actually right. So, that is that about your student host. Then the next day might likely be your main interview date. And again, what I did and I found useful is that on the day of the interview, I already have the list of the professors I was meeting. Okay. And so I always ensure that I sent all of them email in the morning of the interview, you know, try to appreciate them and telling them I look forward to meeting with them. Some of them replied and they appreciated it a lot. And what the implication of that is, it shows my excitement, my pleasure to meet with them and my readiness to actually come to the school, because I was ready, I was excited to meet with people, you know.
Right.
So that is another way to show your you know, excitement about a particular school.
Not a lot of people will do that, so that's wise.
Yeah. So that is that about meeting with professors. So the experience you will have meeting with professors is actually similar to what I've just said. The experience I had with, you know, 1 day interview with professors. So it's just about, you have probably 30 minutes each meeting with professors. They will ask about you, your research, why you are doing PhD, and you know, why you chose the school. Now, one question I observe that is common is either they ask you directly why you chose their program and their school, or they ask you what can the program offer you. You know, that is like the same question. It's just like saying it in another way. So you want to tell them why you chose the school. So how can the program offer, what can the program offer you? Or how can the program help you to achieve your goal? It's like the same question, just saying it in, different ways. So it's about you telling them, what's the reason why you apply to the school. And when you are saying the reason why you apply to the school, the first thing you should mention should not be a generic, this kind of stuff. Your school is R1, is known publicly, is known worldwide. Everybody knows that. Everybody says that.
Right.
It's no more new. They've had that thousands of times. You don't want to say things that plenty of people will say. You want to say things that is, unique to you. So the best way to start is by aligning your interest with the PI's interest. That's one of the reasons why you chose the school, is because when you were, applying to grad school, you identified your research interest and you were looking out for the professors that can mentor you best based on that interest. So you find, so and so PI working in the same area, and you have communicated with them. Another way to show excitement is, even if it is not required, it is good to reach out to these professors ahead of time. I received some questions asking me to, name the professors I have engaged with, even though they know they did not require this, as an applicant, but they also want to see how, excited are you, how does their school rank in your list. So they want to know, are you really interested in their school, or it's just part of the school? You just say, okay, let me just apply if they like this, or admit me if they like this, and just go. So that's another way to show that. So again, I observed that once they invite you for interview, just like Dr. and Kenneth have said, you are like 80% in, or even more than that. Now, the only reason why you may not get in, the two major reasons I identified are, number one, your alignment with the program. Do you have, a very good alignment with the program? Your interest, does your interest suit the program, or do they have appropriate PI that can mentor you in the program? Because they don't want to accept a student that will struggle to find a match in the list of their PIs.
Right.
That's number one. Then number two is your excitement. Are you excited, about the school, or you just feel like, or you're just passive about it, like just attend the interview passively, you did not really get involved a lot of times? So they want to see those two things. In fact, last week I was discussing with our program director. She told me the same thing, that once they invite applicants, they have decided that the applicant is admittable, no doubt. So the only thing that can make them not to admit such a student is if the student cannot find match in the faculty, in the list of their faculty. They don't want to admit students that will not be happy working on a certain research.
Right.
So they must admit you based on availability of PIs that can mentor you. That's one. Then two, they must see that you actually want to attend. They don't want to admit somebody that will not send them later, love letter 2-3 days after that. No, I'm no more coming, when you have already blocked other people's chances. So they want to be sure that, yes, you actually want to come to the school and you have a perfect match. And so in showing your excitement, try to get involved in all the programs, ask questions, try to be noticeable. Let all the PIs be aware of you. And thank God, because of our color, there's no way you will ask questions that you will not be remembered. Yeah, I can remember when I was, interviewing with them, I always ask questions here and there, ask them questions. So for the programs that are like 2, 3, 4, 5 days, they will invite professors to present their research first before you go to individual interview with professor. So during that time, it's another opportunity for you to ask questions. I asked them a lot of questions. There was a day I asked a professor a question, and that professor also happened to be one of the people that interviewed him personally. And so during the personal interview, he was saying, yeah, I remember you asked questions. So it is good to ask questions. That is one of the ways you can show excitement. Then you also need to show that your interest, what you want to do, is available in the school. Always talk about that when they're asking you why you chose the school. Make sure you let them know that what you want to do is available in that school. So one question that is not common that I received, and the question threw me off balance, is that a professor asked me if I was giving $30,000 as a scientist, what do I do with the money? Yeah, and I struggle a lot to be able to answer this question, to be honest.
So what did you say?
So
because you got the position, so
yeah. So I asked,
you were right.
Like I was trying to buy time to reason, because it was not a question where they would say, okay, I give you 5 minutes to think, then come back and tell me. So he was asking me, he expected me to like kickstart and then begin. So what I did was to find something and be saying. I used that. I was processing some other thing reasonable to say. Then at a point I got myself, and I just proposed an hypothetical question about what is related to my research interests. And I said, so if I want to do this, I will start from, I just designed the experiment in my head. I will start from cell culture. Thereafter, investigating this and this, I can move to animal model to be sure that what I've seen in vitro is, it can be translated into human. And so with that, I will use animal model. So I just like frame, my answers in that perspective. And I guess I did not do so much well in tackling this question because I never expected questions like that. Right. So yeah, but I just tried to, because the reason why it was a little bit easier for me to think of something is the review I made, the paper I published before my interview helped me a lot, because that gave me a lot of information in my feed. So I was able to quickly propose something and then present it.
So that's great. So even if you don't have, so I think, let me just summarize some of the things you said. That's Yemi. So you did not have experience in the cancer field, like research experience.
Yeah.
Right? Not a lot though. You did not have any publication, but before you applied, you tried to write a review paper.
Yeah.
Right. And then you got that published. So that helped you to really go deep into mechanisms and pending questions, right? In the field. So you use some of that knowledge to convince professors that you know what you are talking about, and you are ready to do some of the work. So that's great. So even if you don't have a review paper, it's important, at least at the PhD level, that you have a good background in what you are proposing to do for grad school. So even if you don't have publication, so when they hear you talk, they would know, they can call your bluff if you are pretending. But so yeah, that question is strange. I would say, well, at this level that I am, if you give me 30,000, it's not going to do a lot. So probably if you have a research question, I might just propose that I'm going to collect XYZ data as preliminary evidence that this could work. Then I will use that data to apply for a bigger grant at the federal level. 30,000 is not going to do a lot. If you are buying stuff right now in the lab, you probably know that, especially in the biomedical science field. So that could be a way to do it, but you did great anyways. Let's move on to the next question. I had a question the other time. I'll probably get back to it. So because the title of our program is to teach people how to develop confidence, right? So what would be the key advice you would give people watching now in terms of, approaching this with confidence? So what are the, from everything you've learned so far, from going through all the interviews you went through, and also now that you're in the program, how would you ask them to prepare so they can be confident going to the interviews? that's the last question before we go into Q&A. So I'm going to share the Zoom link for the Q&A so people can join and they can ask their questions in person. They've started dropping questions, but please let me start with Kenneth on that one.
All right, thank you. So definitely you won't be confident if you have not done your own work by reading your SOPs, going through your CVs again, and making research in all these things we have talked about. Looking at the professors, the program website. You have to do that part. Like you have to actually do your own part. And when you have done your own part, definitely you'll be equipped. One good thing I learned about being prepared is that once you are prepared, questions can come in any form. But because you have done your own part of the work, you will definitely find an answer. It might not be a perfect answer, but you'll be able to say something to answer that question. But if you don't prepare, if any question comes that you never prepared for, you will just be blank. That's then another important thing I want us to understand is that our African system or Nigerian interview system actually didn't help us, to be honest. One thing that shocked me when I got here is to find out back at home, like we all know, there's a huge gap between the poor and the rich, between the educated and non-educated. For instance, most of us know how unapproachable our HODs, our professors and lecturers are at home, that they are mini gods. But back here, the gap is very, very minimal. In fact, you might not even see the gap. Here, your professors are your friends. They dress casually. We see them we hang out in the departmental lounge. Just like friends. So, and this is how they see it. So when you're going for an interview, please just see these people, because they will be smiling, encouraging you, nodding their heads. This is just them. So you have to be very, very relaxed. Please don't. I could remember I will share a quick story. In 2020, I had my Chevening scholarship interview, and I didn't get selected. Why? I could remember I prepared well for the interview, but I crammed. I crammed a lot of stuff. Then when I got into the interview hall, I was just blabbing. One question, I blah, 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 blah. And it was obvious that this guy just crammed everything. And then when they asked me a question that I didn't prepare for, I was just saying rubbish. Now, in 2021, I passed through the interview with these professors. I felt so comfortable. Like, this is easy to do. And then I've gotten I'm trying to tell you what confidence can do. Then I've gotten some offers already from US, and then I got an invite from the UK embassy for the Chevening interview. I didn't even prepare. I just had to go back to my essays, read everything, got ready, and went for the interview. I got into the interview hall. I felt so relaxed. I was just speaking my mind. Now I noticed, because I felt so comfortable, I was able to speak my mind, answer questions freely. I got it. I didn't even prepare more compared to how I prepared the last time. Why? I prepared last time, I overcrammed and I was just fidgeting in the exam, in the interview. So please, guys, it's going to be like see it as a discussion. I could remember Doc told me then, see it as a discussion. And once you see it as a discussion, it eases off the stress for you. Then another thing I want you to try your best to have at the back of your mind is that ask questions, just like Emi said. Please ask questions. Try to ask questions. And here, another important thing I want you guys to do, please be very, very discerning. Discernment is very, very important, especially when you're when you're having an interview with your professor. I know everybody wants to get this opportunity and leave, but if you get into the hands of the wrong professor, you will regret it when you arrive here. Like, your life will be miserable when you get here if you fall into the hands of the wrong professor. I actually didn't go to a particular school because I could see from my interview with this professor that I'm in hot soup. During my interview with him, I knew already that I'm going to be in hot soup if I get into this guy's hand. So, like, this guy was sounding as if he was doing me a favor by giving me this opportunity. Then he was specific about writing. Kenneth, PhD is about writing. Can you write this? Can I see some of the things you have written? Can this, that? So I noticed that this guy, if I definitely come into this program, he will be so much focused on you publishing papers, work, just this, that. He might not even care about any other stuff. While other professor was so nice, he was even talking about how I could come. Can I come with my family? Oh, I should speak with the lab members. Be able to discern, guys. It's very, very important. If you get into the wrong hands, you might regret coming here. So during this process, please guys, open up your eyes. Don't be clouded by I want to just get this and leave. Yeah, confidence is key. That's all I have to say at the end of the day.
Good. So confidence is confidence. It's either you have it or not. But certain things can help, which is preparing well, right?
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me hear what Yemi has to say.
Yeah, thank you, Doc. Kenneth actually said a lot of things. What I would just add is try to be optimistic, because once you get the invite, you should be certain that you are worthy to be admitted to the program. And so what can increase your confidence is try to know a little bit about the professors you will be meeting, because that will make your discussion to be two-way things. It won't be that the professor will be talking and you will just be looking. So try to at least try to prepare technical questions, apart from how do you handle undergraduate students, how do you handle postgraduate students. Try to prepare scientific questions from their research. And if you can be specific about a paper, professors like to discuss their research with people, and most especially, they love people that have taken time to read their paper. So if you ask them questions from their paper, you see the way they will be smiling, they will be so much like it. So you want to, if you have that kind of opportunity, you want to like read their papers, maybe one, just find one question, maybe the reason why they use a certain technique and not the other one, the reason why they use a certain model and not the other one, you know, that kind of technical questions, or the reason why they propose, okay, if in their discussion they say, okay, we propose that this may be responsible for this, and you thought of something that may be responsible, you can bring that discussion, you know, make it a discussion, you know, try to engage with professors. From there, they begin to, because they also want to see that they are admitting students that can reason scientifically. So they will be looking out for that. So just try to make some of your conversations scientific, not just about how much do you pay, do you increase stipend, all those kind of questions. Yeah, those are important, but students can actually answer that. But in the situation where students cannot answer that, just don't make that, you know, your main point while discussing with professors. So talk about science, you know, that will help a lot.
That's great. So an example is, let's say you are going to a genetics lab and they do a lot of CRISPR, right? And maybe they use a lot of lentiviral CRISPR particles or constructs. So you can say, you know, I understand ribonucleoproteins are the newest, you know, CRISPR editing construct. I wonder why you are still sticking with lentiviral constructs, you know, things like that.
Yeah,
they will be able to explain why we are using this over this. You know, that may be the kind of technical questions that you can ask. So that my example will not work for everyone, because not everyone. But you should understand what we are trying to say, that when you are meeting with professors, it's okay to ask some generic questions, but if you can ask technical questions based on their publications or what they use in the field, in their lab rather, that would really, if they are considering a lot of people, that will put you right on the top, because you're already thinking, you know, technically. That's like critiquing the paper of the professor, which will show that you can critique yourself too when you are doing stuff in the lab. So that's great. So that's a great suggestion. So I do have some other questions, but I'm going to start with some of the ones we already have. Let me see if some of them are already in the meeting. So yeah, if you have any questions, please use I think there is a hand symbol here. You can raise a hand so we know you have a question if you want to ask specific questions. But let me start with, okay. I think we already have some. All right. Julia, please. Cornelius, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, good evening, Dr. Jide. Good evening, Kenneth. Good evening, the other guests. This has really been a very nice section. I must commend you for arranging this program, knowing fully well that some of us, we are expecting interviews from now. Okay, so my question is this. I've had a situation where they ask a question like, can you tell us a situation in your life that you encountered a problem and how you solved this problem? And then the second question is, if you encounter such problem in the graduate school, how do you solve it? And then lastly, they also ask a question like, how have you managed, how have you been able to manage a situation, a crisis situation, maybe in your place of work or in a graduate school? How can you manage a crisis situation? So I don't know, maybe you can answer these questions. Thank you.
All right, anybody want to take a bite on that?
Yeah, I actually wanted to mention that question. So in answering that question, we had the other two. So in case we have people that want to ask similar questions, we can just put everything together. So if they ask about a time in your life that you encounter a problem, my personal recommendation would be to mention a challenge that you encounter in your research, because this time around, yeah, you might have encountered a problem in your personal life. You want to move from one house to the other, you have a problem. Yeah, that is like a general problem. But I will advise you make this challenge a challenge that you encounter in your research and how you solve it, because that can actually tell more about you as a scientist. And that is what they are, probably looking out for. So make it probably in, sorry, so probably in your undergrad, you encounter a problem in your experiment and you were able to rescue the experiment and it later worked. How you are able to manipulate. Just think about, a problem you have encountered in your research, and do not make it, I wouldn't know if Doc we have, opinion about it. I believe I was telling somebody when the person said, okay, he encountered a problem, so he just discarded the experiment and started all over. So my recommendation would be that, what if the experiment is such that it will take you 4 years to finish the experiment? You're already, towards the end of the experiment, you encounter a problem, you discarded it, and will you now start again from day one up to, the 4th year? That kind of a thing, to me, it's not the best example you can give. So it's better you give an example of, something wanted to go wrong and you are able to rescue, the situation, use your skills and stuff like that. Do not make it a situation where you have to discard and start all over. So that's that. That's my contribution. Then another question that may also come is, they may ask you, what excites you about science? Like, what gets you excited about science? As for me, what I banked on that time is, the ability to be able to follow up my findings up to translational stage and see that what I actually propose in terms of basic research and everything actually translates into improved patient care. That is what I backed my, excitement about science.
Mhm.
And again, that's one. The second one I talk about is for me to, push my ideas worldwide in terms of publication, in terms of presentation, so that whatever I do at the corner of my research, people will have, a wide accessibility to it, all over the world. Those are the two things I mentioned during my time. Another question is, at the end of the interview, they might ask you, okay, now that we have finished the interview, they have known much about you, is there any other thing you think they can know more about you that has not been discussed? Any other thing that can help your application? I was discussing with someone and the person could not mention anything. I said, you just miss it. This is an opportunity for you to mention new thing, that you have not discussed that can help your application. It's just like open check, so you don't want to miss this kind of opportunity. You have to see which other part of you, you consider as your strength. So in this place, they're asking for your strength that you have not highlighted, so it's just for you an opportunity for you to come up with something that can sell you more as a scientist in this regard. Thank you.
That's great. Kenneth, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, quickly to add to that, another question you should prepare for might be something like what these are, we call them, I think, interpersonal skill question and the rest. They just want to ask questions about, can you tell us about your weaknesses, or what are your strengths? questions like that always pop up. It's not really something you should just stress yourself about answer, but you have to be also technical, especially in the question of what are your weaknesses. So you have to look at scientific weaknesses, look at around things like maybe like, oh, you find the writing very, very difficult most of the times. And then, but currently you have been taking classes on effective writing and communication. And in fact, you joined the writing club and you have been improving your skills on that. In fact, you now maybe you can talk about a journal that you're writing or something that just to show that. And then you now go ahead and talk about that. Oh, we're also happy and excited because through this PhD program or through this master's program, you'll be able to improve your skills in writing, and it will actually equip you with those skills and this thing through the process. They will be happy to hear that. Then they might ask you definitely what are your post study plans in maybe master's or PhD. So be very, very careful on what you answer here. For those doing masters, you might want to say, oh yeah, after your masters, you want to advance your studies by going for a PhD. Professors would definitely love to hear that. They'll know that, okay, there's still a long time for us to work together. Then for those doing PhD, you might have to be careful. You might want to talk about, okay, you want to take up lecturing position, or you want to go ahead to advance more in the field by doing a postdoc, and then you can take it on from there. Even if you tell them that you have not really figured it all out, fine, but just be technical in that area. Then answering the direct question you asked about a situation in your life, just like Yemi said, don't make it. I was asked that question. I forgot to add, and what I quickly remembered. I told them that yes, during one of my research activities, that we had a challenge with power outage, and we couldn't have access to pump water to irrigate or provide water to our crops, which we have on the research plots, and this was becoming a huge challenge to the success of the project. And we had a brainstorming section with the team, and it was during this process that I actually talked about designing a solar powered water pumping system that could help us irrigate our farm, our project plots every time. And the team bought into the idea, and at the end of the day, we came up with this system, and it has helped us overcome this challenge and led to the successful completion of the project. And that's how we overcame that challenge. So something around your work, it might be your undergrad, it might be in your research, but just get something within that space to answer that question.
Great. Yeah, I really don't have much to add after that. So I'm just going to go to the next person. But before that, I would say that for those who do not have a lot of research experience, this might be a challenge, but most of us have the opportunity to do some level of research in undergrad, right? So, I mean, you can, if you don't have a lot of things to say about your challenge in research, you can talk about your challenges in writing, like Kenneth said, and how you overcame that. Now, it's not just important to talk about the challenges you had, but you should always buttress that with how you overcame that. And if there's any evidence in terms of publication or something, mention that. And of course, you want to now end it. I like the point that Kenneth raised. You're really excited that a PhD opportunity would elevate that particular skill or challenge, or help you solve that challenge. But if you have a good research experience, you should always use that as your challenge. You should always think about the challenge you have in research. I hope we answered that question. So I'm going to go to Kosi.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening, Doctor. Good evening, Yemi. Good evening, Kenneth. Thank you for this session. Actually, my question, because I already got an invite, and
congratulations.
Thank you. With a schedule, but I don't have. There's no list of the interviewers. Now I don't know who they are going to be. So is it proper that I send a mail to them and ask for that? And again, because the first year is rotational, even though I already have 3 PIs that I chose as going to be my potential PIs,
Right.
So I'll have to mail each of these three. But I'm not certain that they are the ones that will be interviewing me during the interview.
Yesterday.
Well,
My
I
third
think,
question,
okay, go on.
my third question it has been answered actually. Is about the any other thing that we need to know about it. I wanted to know if it must be research based, like scientific based questions and not personal questions. You cannot bring in personal life questions in this kind of scenario. It has to be research based questions. So
What
those are my
scenario are you
questions.
talking about? What kind of?
When you are asked any other thing they will need to know about you that have not been discussed during the interview.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's better if you have a research angle to it. Let me
Okay.
just tell you, as a matter of fact, in most places it's, I don't want to say illegal, but they train when they are training interviewers of faculty, they always try to tell them not to go too much into personal questions.
Yeah.
So they will tell them,
Okay.
for example, they shouldn't ask you if you are married, if you have kids, and all those things. It shouldn't matter, because that could create a certain bias, towards students. So they try to limit that. So no, I don't think they care to know anything personal at this point. It's just about your ability to do this work. So if you can think of something along these lines, that would be great. But for your first two questions, I think Kenneth wanted to start.
yeah. So also to add to what Doc said about your third question, I think I was a time I was asked that question, and you just tell yourself aside research, just talk about some of the amazing impacts you have had in your community, in your society in that field. I talked about how
Okay.
I've been training, how I received grants from various organizations to train farmers and equip them with skills. I talked about my leadership positions and some of the awards I've received. Just sell yourself in that area. Then to your
Okay.
two other questions, I think Yemi correctly answered that question initially. So in this scenario, what you need to do is simple. You know the professors you have mentioned in your SOP. You plan to, you can just email them. Hey, Professor, this I've been invited for, just like Yemi did. I've been invited for an interview. I would like you to join. Blah blah blah. And for my interview, that you're excited to be meeting them. They will come. Then now you don't know the people who are going to definitely interview you, but you have your SOP. So read your SOP and still tailor your questions to align, number one, to the program, to the department, the program itself, and also to the research activities of your department, especially these professors that you have mentioned. Because if you come there and you talk about things that are not tailored to the department or to the program, or you mention research activities or interest that they don't have any professor that will help you, definitely you're not getting into that program. So it's just what you need to do. You can invite these people and then also go back to your SOP, like I said, read what you have there, and then plan with what the program has and what the professors you intend to work with have, and you'll be good.
All right.
Any
Thank you
addition?
so much. Thank you.
Yemi, do you have any addition to that?
Yeah, no. Kenneth has actually done justice.
All right. So
All right.
I would add that you might, something I would try. For me, I'm stubborn, so I would email the graduate coordinator. The worst they will say is no. So I would say,
Yes.
thank you for the invite. Is there any chance that I can know professors that will attend the interview?
Okay.
I think that's a reasonable question to ask. And if they say no, then I like Kenneth's idea that, now email the professors you really want to work with that you mentioned in your SOP and say, hi, Professor, James, I've been invited for an interview. I'm really excited about it. I hope I would have the opportunity to interact with you during the interview.
Okay.
Hopefully they will reply you and say, yes, I'll be there, or, oh, I'm really sorry at that time, at least you can check that out,
Yes.
So if you have time, you can do this for almost all the professors you want to work with.
I will. I have time.
So So at least you can have an idea. But I will start with the graduate coordinator. They should have an idea of those that will be there. Even if everyone will not be there, they should have an idea. But yeah,
All right.
that's something you can try. I think we answered all your questions, right? Or is there any other?
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome and good luck.
Thank you.
All right, Samson, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, good everybody. Very glad to be here. Can you guys hear?
We are struggling to hear you, but you can go on.
Let me turn off my earpiece. Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I have few questions. Okay, first of all, is that is it possible to mention during the interview that okay, there is this school, I'll be having an interview with them this coming Thursday and Friday. So is it nice for me to tell them that, oh, I've met with a Nigerian or someone in one of the PIs I'm interested in his lab, a Nigerian, a lady, I've met with her, I've talked with her, blah, blah, blah. Is it nice for me or for the lady? No, not to be like a kind of setup. I don't know if probably these people will be, we find it nice to hear that, oh, we've talked with someone or something, blah, blah, blah. Is it good enough to mention that?
First question is, would that be a truthful statement? I mean, if you say if you mention that you've met with someone, would that be a lie or is that the fact?
Yeah, yeah, it's a fact. It's a fact. I've met with the person, the lady. She helped me out a lot with all admission process and other stuff, and to know more about the school. So, would it be nice to tell the PI that, oh, I've met with someone in your lab before this interview, and she's been of a great help, and she has actually introduced me to the courses to help me know about the PIs, the ones to choose and the ones not to choose, actually. So is it a nice idea?
All right, I'll let our guests. So maybe Yemi should start on that.
Okay, so as a person, I wouldn't know who you will be meeting with, and of course, we do have professors with different kind of characters, different kind of background and stuff like that. So to be safe, if I were you, yeah, it is good to say that you have met with current grad students and you have discussed. They make you to understand more about the program, so that we come under your out of inquisitiveness, so to say, to understand the program, which is good. But then I wouldn't know if it is necessary for you to say, okay, a certain Nigerian in this so lab. For me, I would just say, okay, I've met with, current grad students, I understand the current challenge. Okay, so if I may say again, there is this part of my SOP where I actually mention a particular challenge in a program, and I explain what I've done to prepare myself, against that challenge. This may come under that part. Okay, you have discussed with, current grad students, you understand grad students always face so and so challenges, and that has, enabled you to prepare, ahead of time for those challenges. So I wouldn't know if it is necessary for you to mention a particular Nigerian in so and so lab. That may be my, answer to that question.
Yeah, me and Doc actually answered it right. When I came here, that's how I understood that it's everywhere in the country. Although each country might have their own perspective. Over here, like networking is big. Who you know is big. They call it recommendation, but it's now how you go about it. So if you go all about saying, oh, there's a particular Nigerian, help me do this, help me. No, it's already a red flag. But just present it in that, just like Emi said, oh, during my, I've actually spoken with some, or I've spoken to a current graduate student in this school, and he told me how amazing the school is, the research facilities, this, that, and just this can even come in. Okay, so why did you choose this program, or why did you choose this school? You showcase that you have actually, aside doing your research and your interests, you have also gone ahead to communicate with current graduate students, establish communication with them, to know how this all about the school, the programs, and just like Yemi said, prepare you for what's ahead. But don't just go saying, "Oh, there's a particular Nigerian who has helped me and do this, do that." But
Good.
recommendation is big here. Please don't. It's a big plus for you.
Good. So I'll just again restate that while it's good, in some cases, I wouldn't lead with that kind of statement. I would try not to, put that in front when I'm discussing my fit with the program. But if it comes up that there's another Nigerian here, do you know the person? Then you can mention that.
Yeah.
If it comes about at this point, just stick to why you're a good fit for the program. So don't make them feel like, oh, maybe you're not really interested because this person is here. So it will come up like that. So just be cautious when you're saying that.
Okay, thank you very much. I have two more questions. Sorry, right. Can I go?
Yes, please, quickly.
Okay, yeah, the second question is one of the PIs, or the two of the PIs I wrote in my SOP, I've read about them, about their research, and also can I mention something like the recent, one of them was appointed as a medical director for a kind of an hospital, kind of research-based hospital. So can I mention that as, wouldn't it be like I'm stalking them, kind of, or can I just let it pass and just talk about research alone?
Sorry, I'm not sure if others got the question. Sorry, I was a little distracted with the chat.
Okay, let me come again.
Yes.
The PIs I wrote in my SOP that I would like to work with, yeah, one of them recently got an offer to head a medical institution, kind of. Yeah, I think that's a feather to his cap, his professional cap and other stuff, and I would like to work with him. So it's not stated on the program website, but I follow them on Twitter, so I know their recent development. So I was thinking, will it not be like I'm stalking them online, kind of privacy kind of stuff? So is it necessary to mention it, or will it be an addition like, oh, this guy is actually following up our development, professional development, and other stuff?
I mean, that's okay if it comes up and you guys are having small talk. That might be something you say, oh, I realized Dr. So just got the position at, or if you happen to see the person himself, you can congratulate them. But yeah, if you are having small talk, you can talk about that. And I mean, it could just be out of curiosity. For me, I would, if that's someone I would like to work with, you may want to know if that's leaving any space, in their program, or if they will still be deeply involved in the program, despite the fact that they have an appointment elsewhere. But that's really for small talk with students, or again, these are not like the main interactions you would be having. But if you're having, like I said, small talk with students or maybe certain professors, you might bring that up. Sorry, I don't know if Yemi and Kenneth have something to say on that.
Yeah, just like you said, it's not a big deal. It's not a major part. It's not a determinant to whether you be accepted or not. The only way you can, if his new appointment has to do with or has an implication on the scientific part of it, probably you'll be able to collaborate with an hospital to get you some human sample that you can now use for your research. You can come from that angle. But if it's just like knowing that he has moved from one place to the other, well, if it does not really involve science, does not involve your research, it does not really worth something you take as a very big deal to discuss. It's just like Doc has said, it's just a small talk that does not really have much impact about the application, except you're able to establish probably his new position will facilitate collaboration, getting clinical samples to work on or something like that.
All right. Before oh, you have another question. Last one, right, Samson?
Yes, yes.
All right. Please quickly.
Okay. Yeah, the last question seems quite long because currently I'm a PhD student here in Brazil.
Okay.
So I've spent like a year. But during my application to the US to all these schools, before I got this invite, I never mentioned that I'm a PhD student here. I just wrote that I'm a research fellow,
Okay.
kind of, because I felt if I should write I'm a PhD student, it might be like a red flag, like, oh, you're already there, so why are you coming over here?
Mhm.
Kind of. But one of the PIs I'm open to work with is working in line with my research here. So, and yes, melanoma. So, I've been thinking, how do I manage that? Because for me, I think I don't want to actually talk about the Brazil part of my life, like my everything I'm doing here, because I don't want them to probe too much. Because I just told them I'm a research assistant here, not a PhD student here. So, but one of them is really doing something related to my work. And because one of the questions Mr. Opeyemi mentioned, like, okay, what are you currently doing? Probably they might want to ask, what's your research like? Like, what are you currently doing? And I'm currently working on melanoma. The two of them are working on melanoma as well. So, and I don't want to talk about Brazil. Like, I don't want them to start probing, okay, who is your supervisor? Who are you working with there? Blah, blah, blah. So I'm kind of not clear about this aspect. Should I just keep quiet on that part? Or I should just tell them, oh, I did had my master's in Ibadan, University of Ibadan. I worked on this, I worked on that, and that's all. So I don't know how to manage that part very well.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like that question because it is something similar to me. When I was applying to grad school, I was already in a PhD program when I was attending my interview. And so that question came up a lot. I was trying to bury that part, but it came up a lot because I was constantly being asked what I was doing at that time, like which research I was working on. And so when I discovered it was a common question, I had to open that, okay, I'm in a PhD program and the program is so, and so, and this is the current research, but I'm interested in transferring, and they asked me why I wanted to transfer, and I explained why I wanted to transfer, and I believe the reason was genuine. And so based on that, I was still able to get those offers. Do you get? So it might mean that, like you said, probably they may think you're already in a PhD program. Why do you want to, transfer? Maybe you may also transfer when you reach their school or something like that. But then it depends on why you want to leave the current PhD program. That's the very first thing you have to establish. Is it based on a genuine reason or based on something that is not explainable? Now, if you're able to explain why you want to leave Brazil and come to the US, and if it's a very genuine reason, that's fine. You don't have any problem with that. I told all the faculties I interviewed with, I was already in a PhD program and I wanted to, transfer. Some people even say, oh, that's good. So you're already in the States. So we began to gist on my environment, how I felt my coming from Nigeria to US and stuff like that. So some were very much excited about that. So it could be positive in some cases where some people even think, oh, so you're already in a PhD program. What are you doing? What's the research you're working on? So it means you are not like a novice. So you already started from somewhere. So from my perspective, I doubt if you can be able to cover it 100% without letting them know what you do currently. So it depends on you again. If you think, getting that part out of your application is good for you, you might go. But from my experience, I think it won't really affect your application negatively. Rather, it will, enhance your application based on your experience and everything you're already doing. Yeah.
It can enhance your application if you know how to argue why you are leaving the current one and why this program is a better fit for you than your current program. So that's what you need to figure out. What do they have in that particular school that will serve you better long term? You might this is just a suggestion. You might say, yeah, I got admitted into the PhD program, but upon getting there, I realized that, they are lacking in XYZ, which is very much available in this particular program in order for me to learn or become an emerging expert in this field. So that's why I'm looking to, take my training elsewhere, things like that. But if you want to do it the other way as well, I mean, you might try to hide it, but I don't know what your CV looks like if you have removed it or something. But if it's apparent on your CV, then it's not really advisable to, remove that 1 year out of your life, because someone might spot that and be like, now you have 1 year gap between your master's and whatever you're doing right now. So what's going on in your life? You don't want to say you're not doing anything. Okay, and if you say you're just a research assistant, you never know. Someone might be an international person and they'll be able to call your bluff. Like, I mean, how did you get a research assistant job from Nigeria to Brazil? Now you have to start explaining yourself. So just think about what you have in your CV. But if you know how to play your cards well, being in a PhD program should actually help you, because a program actually saw that you are a good fit for a PhD. So your issue is just you want to change your environment to enhance your training, So it depends on you. So you decide. But those are our suggestions.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for the answer. Yeah, quite I really enjoyed it. Well, the major issue is funding, and also I want to have a kind of robust PhD experience.
Mm-hmm.
One of the major challenges here is the language. They speak Portuguese here, not English, but they speak English in my lab. So I feel, okay, I want to have a robust PhD experience, like going for conferences, having not to worry about funding and other stuff. So basically, that's just it. But on my CV, I just put I'm a research assistant in the Department of Immunology, Brazil, and I listed all my experience, all I've done so far, the skills I've garnered, all the molecular biology skills, everything, they are there. Even they form the major part of the skill set I have. Okay. I have it on my CV. I'm here as a assistant, and basically that's just it.
I would, I don't know what Yemi thinks about this, but I would limit, stressing the funding part, Just stick to your training. The language barrier is real. I mean, every other person here speaks Portuguese, though they speak English, but, interaction outside your immediate lab is difficult, and you would like to move to an environment where this is not an issue, And of course, you want to beat them up on the kind of training they give. Okay, so yeah, I think you'll be fine either way. Just try not to lie too much, because they might catch you sometime. Someone might call your bluff. Yeah. That's just a suggestion. All right, before we go to the next person, I know Temitope has a question. Thank you for your question, Samson. Very good questions. So there is one in the chat that looks interesting. So please listen, Yemi and Kenneth. I was in an interview once. So this is from Temitope. I was in an interview once and was asked if I have any question to ask the interviewers. I then asked, what traits should a person have to be successful in the program? So he asked, what traits should a person have to be successful in the program? Then they were like, that's what they are testing for. So how best should I approach the question in the future? So I think this goes back to one of the questions I had. So what were some of the questions you asked, after the interview, or someone can ask after the interview? I think this is what Temitope is trying to ask. But if I'm wrong, please correct me. And a second part to that question is, if someone is already in grad school in Nigeria and looking for better opportunities abroad, should the person include that information when applying? If yes, how best should it be included? I think that's related to what Samson asked. So I don't know if we should spend time on that again. People move programs, even here, people transfer from one PhD program to another.
I transferred 3 times. Dog.
So it's just about what you are looking for and how they can help you.
Yeah.
All right. So for the first question, do you want to tackle that?
Kenneth, are you on?
No, I think it took a short break.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so
What are the questions,
so you
asked?
yeah, like I said, you might be in two situations. Situation one might be just you and your supervisor, and situation two might be you and the exam committee. So for if you're going to be with the exam committee, I think you might just and if definitely your supervisor might be there. Supervisor or potential supervisors might be okay. Let me just focus directly on questions directed to supervisors. So I asked I just like Yemi said, one of the stuff I did was read 1 or 2 papers and just try to understand, because reading some of these research papers back then was tough, but now it seems a little bit. So I had to read the abstracts, understand what they were trying to do, went to the methods, saw the methods, then went to their discussions, and I saw things they proposed. So I just picked out 1 or 2 questions. Oh, just like Yemi said, why do you use this method or that method? Oh, I noticed in your discussion you said this and that. What? So these are the initial questions I started with, and I noticed just like Yemi said, when I ask those questions, they smile. They always smile, and you see them open up and start blabbing, blah blah. If you don't even stop them, they'll just go off and on to answer those questions. Then when I noticed that they were settled and open, I then started asking more direct questions like, okay, I remember I asked one important question: what is the philosophy about publishing? Like, for instance, how many papers should a PhD student publish in his or her lab before they can qualify for graduation? And some of them will tell you, oh, basically, or they'll tell you, according to the departmental policies, definitely you should have at least 1 or 2 publications or 3 publications. They'll answer that. Another way you can ask that question is, okay, so at what point do you think a PhD student in your lab is ready for graduation? So they can also answer things like that. Then I asked about if there will be opportunities to attend conferences and seminars and present, if possible, at these conferences and seminars. And if yes, would there be financial support from the lab to cover some or parts of this process, the transportation, hotel accommodations, and registration for these conferences? I asked that question. I asked questions around. I've avoided questions about stipend and payment. Okay, I think most of them will tell you directly that this is what they pay and this is what it looks like in the department. So I didn't ask that question. Another question I asked was I think these were the 3 major questions about their research, questions about publications, and then I asked about this issue of seminars, conferences, and the rest.
Right.
Yeah.
And I should point out that you don't want to ask 7, 8, 9 questions as well. I mean, just give them the opportunity to also have something to say. You you have the opportunity to ask questions from students, but from professors, just limit. You won't even have a lot of time, because most of the time they will assign to professors is like 30 or 45 minutes. So just respect the time. If let's say you've spent 25 minutes, doing the main interview, your questions you should try to respect the time and not go over the 30 minutes. Yemi, if you have something to add.
I just want to add this. It depends on where you are at in your application, in your processes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes at a point in time when I've received 2, 3 offers, and I knew that okay, these offers are good enough for me. I was no more like afraid. So there was this question I was pushing to them, trying to understand where their past students are, what their past students are currently doing. Now, it's going to be a red flag if a PI does not know where his or her past students are and what they do. So it does mean that The PI is after just pushing you out of the lab. After that, yeah, that's all. Mentorship goes beyond, okay, I come to lab, do research, then I finish my PhD. Mentorship should be, for life. So a good mentor should be able to, design a very, or let me say, work with students to be able to achieve their career goal and then monitor them even after graduation. So to us, you might want to feel like, I don't want to ask questions that will put them on hot seats, or for example, if a PI is not that kind of person, a PI struggles to answer that kind of question, the person may not be comfortable with you asking that question. But at a point when I knew that I already received sufficient offer, so I was I was not in any kind of pressure, to get offers. So I asked that questions and I got a lot of insight from it.
Right. That's something I can do. If I already had a tough interview from someone, I'll put you on the hot seat as well. Okay, give me 2 of your best students and where they are right now. But if you don't have to ask that, that's fine. But yeah, that's some. So
yeah, you might also want to ask about the culture of the lab. Like, is it collaborative? Is it competition like? Yeah, something like, I think I asked something like that. And like I said, if you meet a good supervisor, most of them would like to bribe you to come to their lab. They will say a lot of good things about their lab, about everything. The ones, then be wary of professors that are trying to make it seem as if they are doing you a favor, and you have to be very, very careful about that. But very good professors will always want to bribe you and say a lot of good things about their lab, what they're doing, this, that, and the rest.
That should be central to the interview. They should be able to sell themselves as well. And what they are trying to do is just see if you are enthusiastic about the program and where, like your fit with the program. So I'm sure you've already done that in your SOP, but can you verbalize? Can you say it? Because anybody can write well, but can you actually express we would see how excited you are about it when we actually see you talking about your interests. That's really the point of the interview. All right, so let's give Temitope an opportunity. Temitope Akinleye, please.
Yeah, thank you, Doc, for this opportunity, ample opportunity. And I greet everybody on this platform. My question goes, I think my condition or my circumstance is similar to that of Yemi. But in my own case, it happens that I have interviewed with 2 different programs in the school, and it happens that the 2 interviews coincide. They are having like 2 days. The first day is going to be social, and the second day is going to be for the interview and some other things. First of all, I was asked to name at least 5 to 6 PIs that their research interests align with mine. Also, the second one, they asked me to name minimum of 4 PIs that I would like to work with. So, and it's like each of them, I will spend minimum of 30 minutes, each of them, between 30 to 40 minutes. So I want to ask Yemi that how were you able to maintain stability in interviewing those 4 or minimum of 4 PIs at a go, like almost 2 hours, just talking with them? How were you able to to flow throughout, and you didn't have anything like exhaustion, maybe mental exhaustion, and how are you able to go through those like almost 2 hours within 2 days? Because if I should interview with like 4 PIs, that means like minimum of 2 hours, and I'm doing that for my almost like 2 days consecutive, like 3 days, sir. 3 days.
Just get enough coffee and energy drinks. You're gonna talk like crazy. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's actually the first the first thing to start with. Get bottles of waters, and so you can always hydrate yourself. That's 1. Then 2, another thing that can keep you going is knowing what those professors do. So if you have done a very good job of trying to know what those professors do and have a list of questions, scientific questions for them, then that will keep you going because you already have your questions. It is okay for you to list those questions. You just when you want to meet with certain PI, of course you might likely have an interval of like 5 minutes in between those interviews. So during that 5 minute break before you meet with the next professor, you can take a look at your jotter, then look at the questions you have prepared for the next professors you are meeting. So that kind of thing. Let it be an interesting questions, and of course, it's going to be it's a lot of time and it's going to be tiring. There's no doubt about that. But then try to what we give encouragement is you need this thing, right? And so when you know you need it, and the only thing you can do to get it is to finish this interview. So that alone will give you energy. And then, so if you have time in between, you can hydrate yourself, you can take some probably snacks, light food. If you have like 5 minutes, you can stand up, stretch yourself. There is no, shortcut about it that you'll be tired. Yeah, it will exhaust you. But then get those professors engaged. Find good questions for them ahead of time so that each of them, you can make a very good account of yourself, before each of them. And not that you will be active with the first 2 professors and the last 4, you will now do badly. Because all of them together, their assessment will be, half-raged, and that makes, them determine who and who will come into the program. So you have to be sure that you actually do your best, before all the professors, and not just maybe the first 2 or first 3.
Good. So a mark of a good student with high potential is students that ask good questions. So just like Amy said, in your preparation, have a note and write the name. You already know the professors. Go try to ask or write down 2, let's say 2 technical questions that you can ask each of them if you have the opportunity to ask all of them. So when you get to a particular professor, just know that some of the questions you've had before will come up, like your interests, all those things. They will come up over and over and over again. So that will take some time, right? But when it comes to asking questions, show your curiosity by asking, especially if this is someone you have noted in your SOP that you want to work with, you will be interested in working with. So you should be able to ask questions about, what are some of the confusing things about their research. And there are no stupid questions at this point. They understand you are a trainee. You might not know a lot right now, but at least you can understand what you don't know. You are bold enough to ask questions. So write down 2 questions for each person, and I promise you, with all the generic questions that you will get about your interests, your background, you would have more than enough to talk about. But you have to hydrate properly. So just have enough of stuff to munch on at your desk when you're doing your virtual interviews. So congratulations again on getting that. That's huge. So you'll be fighting for your talent now in the same college. 2 different programs.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Congratulations in advance. At least one of them will admit you. Hopefully, if not both.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
All right. I think so. There was a comment actually, it was my wife that mentioned it. So quickly going back to the question we had on, I think it was this Samson. So about telling them if he should tell them if he knows some Nigerians, in the program, or he has talked to some Nigerians. I think we had a question along those lines.
Yeah.
So another thing that might be a challenge is, and I think I said we agreed that you shouldn't lead on that. But even if you're going to talk about it, you have to be careful. You have to make sure that this person has a good reputation in the program. So that's something you don't know, or you might not know fully. So that's why it's always very tricky to, introduce that. So put your talents in front, put your interest in front. Because you don't, if that person is a terrible student and from Nigeria, you know, you are also a Nigerian. And if that's the only Nigerian they've encountered, it could, you know, the fact that you are even talking about that person as a standard, you know, it might, you know, not speak well for you. So try, I know most Nigerians here, we do great. So I'm not saying Nigerians don't, we are examples for other students, but try not to just lead with that. If you can avoid talking about that, please do. So good catch, Christian. I know she's hearing me somewhere. All right. Let's go to, sorry, Odion Sado. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm so sorry if I missed that. Yes, please.
Oh, good evening, Doc. Good evening, presenters. My name is actually Odion Sado.
Odion Sado.
Okay, please.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, my question is on research experience. Actually, my undergraduate, I'm a medical laboratory science graduate. My undergraduate thesis was on animal study. I worked on the effects of cannabis sativa on serum estrogen and progesterone on female Wisteras. But during my internship program, my 1-year internship program, I worked in a research center where we carried out research on clinical studies involving COVID-19 and yellow fever. We are currently working on all that. But when I'm talking about my research experience, I do not know how, probably if I get an invite, I do not know how to marry my research experience because the first one was on animal study. Now, not the other one is on clinical studies, and they are both different, they are both different fields. And most of the schools I applied to biomedical / biological sciences, you know, with research interest in oncology and infection / immunity. Those are most of the research interests I applied to. So I do not know how to marry my research interest with the graduate interview. And it has been giving me concern until a friend of mine sent this invite to me this morning to join you people. So I will appreciate if you can throw more light on this for me, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I think Yemi probably has similar experience, right?
Yeah. So
any suggestion?
Okay, nice meeting you, Odion. I'm also a medical abuse scientist, so we come from the same background actually. So
all right, thank you.
With your current experience in infectious diseases, I think it goes with what you do in the research center working with COVID-19 and yellow fever. So you can actually marry that. You can actually bring in immunology also in that part, except it's, cancer immunology. If it is not cancer immunology, if it's just like immunology concerning infectious diseases, you can bring in infectious disease and immunology, you marry it with what you currently do. But with oncology, definitely they do not have any relationship. But then one thing you must know is it is okay for you to change your interest at any point in time. I've met with PI that change their interest at the point of postdoc. But some people change after doing a certain research for up to 15 years, they change. So it is okay. The only thing is you must be able to explain why you are changing and why you think your change will not cause a problem for your career progression. Like will you be able to, what background do you have that will make you to survive your new, to survive, to thrive in your new research area. So those are the things you want to, honestly, those are the questions you want to answer on your own with all sense of honesty. If you do not have background in oncology, why do you think, giving you a position in oncology will not cause a problem for you? What background do you have? As for me, I've explained what I did. I did online courses, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, watching techniques, how things work, and I read a lot of papers and I developed everything into manuscript. So that alone was what I built on. But in your own case, I do not know, I do not have access to your full profile. I do not know what tests you have in your profile. But then it is important for you to be able to marry your experience with what you want to do in the future. If they do not relate, explain why you are changing and what you have done, to bridge whatever gap you have in between.
Okay. Thank you.
Kenneth, do you have any addition, Kenneth?
I think Yemi actually did justice to that question. Like he answered it perfectly.
Good. So I would suggest, in addition to that, that when you are talking about your research, like I know you said it briefly now and with so much enthusiasm, but I don't understand because you said a bunch of scientific names that. So you want to be sure that your listener understands you. So you said you studied Candida. Sorry.
Yeah.
So your interview might be like me too. Like, what's that? What does that mean? So try to put it in English. Like not use scientific names, except you're sure that the person knows what you're talking about. But just to buttress what Yemi said, one of the ways you can, the whole point of asking you about your research interests is to understand how your background can help you be a good student, can actually support your training in this new field or in this PhD program, whatever. So in terms of your research, even if it's not directly related, are there specific skills that you gained, right? Or techniques that could still be useful in this new field? So for example, I don't have a full sentence here, but we can do that later. But thinking about this, I would say something like, during my undergrad, I used electrophoretic techniques, right? Or flow cytometric or HPLC techniques to study how Candida, whatever, affects XYZ, right? So mentioning that technique shows that you are an expert in using this technique, and it could be more than one. So when you describe that, you can end with something like, I'm excited to be able to use some of these techniques and even some advanced techniques and learn more advanced techniques like XYZ to propel our understanding of, then you talk about your interests in the program. So that's how you can sort of marry what you've done in the past using the techniques that you gain to support why you will be a good student and really what you would want to learn when you get into the new program. So there are ways you can go about that. So you can approach it from the standpoint of selling the techniques that you can do or that you have, both in the clinical and in, from the animal studies. So you can do that one by one, depending on, but if you're asked to talk about your research interests, you can just choose like the one you had the most role in. If you had the most role in the animal study, you probably want to talk about that. Or if you think the clinical study is more relevant to what you are doing right now, then you can talk about that in detail and talk about the techniques that you learned and how that would support this training in your PhD. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, please, can I say something else?
Yes.
Please. Do I still have time? Okay, yes. So I sent a cold email to a professor, and so she replied me. She was like, of course, she's willing to accept exceptional students. I sent in my profile, but she was like, I need to, if I know that I have experiences in oncology, because her research interest was oncology, molecular biology, and I think genetics. So if I know I have experience in either of these, that of course I can put in my application. So because I did not have experience in all of these, and then I was still a novice in this application stuff, I felt like it has already cancelled me out. But with this now, I think I can handle subsequent switch in research interest.
Right. So oncology, yes, you might not have studied cancer before, but are there stuff they do in the cancer field or in our lab, looking at our paper, are there stuff that you can do? So you can sell it, you can take some of these things and put them together in your response to any interview questions. But of course, for me, I try to be honest when I'm going to interviews. I can do this, I can do that. And what I'm really looking forward to is, of course, using some of these skills in this new line, but I'm really looking forward to learning. Then I'll state what I really want to learn. When we bring all this together, we will be able to answer whatever problem or, whatever research questions that I'm willing to answer for my training. So people change fields all the time. I did biochemistry in Nigeria. I changed to nutrition for my PhD. And right now I'm in the epithelial biology field. So in the medical field. So it all depends on your goals and how you can, marry all the fields together.
Yeah, quick one though. So one other good way I've advised people to go about this is if you do not have experience in a certain field and you are really interested in research in that field, one good way to do it is to find an umbrella program. Like for example, we do have some programs that comes under umbrella platform, such a way that the first year, admitted students will all do the same thing. And so in the second year, you move to departments. For example, we do have a biosciences umbrella program. We do have molecular biology umbrella program, such that in the second year, you can go to neurobiology, you can go to genetics, you can go to oncology, infectious diseases, you can go to anything. So if you have that kind of program, you can apply with what you have, what matches with your background. Keep quiet about oncology if you do not have any substantive experience that can give you offer in oncology. Just focus on what your background can give you. Then when you get to the program, then you rotate in the lab that does oncology and you are in.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you can even transfer if it's the same university. I mean, the thing is when you're in the US, it's easy to transfer, to be honest. It's all about applying to the program. If they know you're already in a PhD program, you're already in the States, they are always interested in that if they have the opportunity to help. So at this point, when people are applying, I try to say, okay, if you can apply to things that are a good match with your background for a start. Then when you get here, you can do whatever manipulation you want. So I have a question in the chat before Austin.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope we answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Good. Before we go to Austin, a question in the chat. I think Kenneth might like this. So in the videos I have been seeing, there's a question about where else you are applying, especially because now I have only one school that have invited me for interview. So how do I go about this question and not look like I am not good enough since other schools have not invited me? So what do you think, Kenneth? Let me start with Kenneth.
Like you should know that not all schools invite you, just like me. Not all schools will invite you for interview. You might just get offer straight away without any interview or the rest. But if I had that question before, I wanted to talk about it. So it's a very, very tricky question. Like if you answer it wrongly, it's actually reduces your chances, and if you get it right, it improves your chances. You have to show that you're a very, very competitive person while also showing that you are not someone who just want to use school and run away. So are you applying to any other places? Oh, yes, I applied to one other. Aside this particular school, I applied to just to make it two schools, to maximum three, but just leave it at two. So it doesn't seem as if you are desperate and you just want to use school to get out of your country. So aside this school, I also applied to this other school and just let it be there. Let just end it there. Yeah.
What do you think, Yemi?
Yeah, I support that 100%. And what I do, I also got that kind of question. And what I told them was that just like Kenneth said, I made sure it was not more than 2. In fact, I didn't go up to 3. And so what I did is that I gave them schools that were higher in rank than the school I was interviewing with, so that they will know that, oh, so this candidate is actually
Pressure them.
very high. Yeah, I pressured them a little bit. So I didn't mention school below them in ranking. I mentioned school far above them in ranking. And so with that, they will know, okay, so this, you're actually selective to what you want. So
right, you know what you want.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I told you guys then, like, if you get that question, never say you are the only one. They probably know that you are lying and you're trying to. Then two, it doesn't give them any pressure to quickly extend an offer to you. So usually what happens is, I think I saw someone who asked this question. You said this, and even though they said they are going to, meet with the other committee members and decide, they sent his letter the following day after the interview. So if you're a good student, you are confident, please tell them, yes, I applied to other schools. You can even say, yeah, I'm interviewing at other schools in the coming weeks, in the coming 2 weeks. But I'm really looking forward to the opportunity here, which is why I'm here to see how we can be a good fit. I can be a good fit to your program. So you can end like that. Yes, I applied to other programs, to 2 other programs, have names of schools ready in case they ask. I wouldn't mention names up front unless they ask, right? Unless they ask. So just, it's okay to mention as well, but make sure you just don't say no to that question. That's a good question, and I hope everyone gets it, because it's a good one to show that you know what you are doing, and if they are not careful, you go to another school. So they should be fast with their offer. So that's a good one. So Austin, please ask your question.
Okay, good evening, Doc. Thank you for this opportunity, putting us through. I think earlier today, I took my time to watch all your videos of graduate school interview. I must say that was very, very helpful to me. And also, Chief Yemi, I call him Chief. He has been a friend. I've known him since the earlier part of this year, so he has also been really been helping in the process. So, and to our other presenter, thank you very much for making it easier. My question, I already have an interview invite. And
congratulations.
The Grad coordinator sent me a mail, and but the lead interviewer, the lead PI, faculty for the interview, was not somebody I mentioned SOP. And when I went to check up the doc, it's a lady. Her research interest is around tendon biology. I follow her on Twitter, and the email has it that the career coordinator says she will email me with the name of the additional 2 faculty that will join the interview. So my question is for PI, who is this faculty member, who is the lead interviewer? Because she said it's to do with the interview committee. Should I look up her publication, given the fact that her work is more on tendon biology, even though it relates to cancer in a way? I'm particularly interested in metastasis, which is the process of cancer spread in the entire system. So do I need to look up her work in the event that she'll be asking me questions relating to her lab? Because I'm not seeing anywhere where she's switching interest from orthopedic to any other aspect. And for the interview, if I go to professor's publications and read up, I think will it make sense if when I copy things down, I should be able to carry the notes to the interview such that if I forget, I could be able to quickly look at my note and pick up something, or I just have to ensure that the whole thing sticks to my memory. Once I'm asking about a particular research they did, why they did this and why they did this. So will it be worthwhile to carry a material that like a notebook where I've been able to pick out 1 or 2 things to the interview? So that's my question.
So what do you guys think? We have two questions, two parts to that question. Who wants to start?
I got the first part. I'm not sure if I got the second part correctly because I was actually writing something down here.
Okay.
So the first part is the leading.
Okay.
Let's start with the first part first.
So the leading interviewer is not part of the professors to mention your SOP, and so how should you prepare for this person? So most times, even for those that I met, sometimes they will always bring, random professors that are not in your field, just like, because, they know that as a good PhD student, you will do a lot of, readings that will be outside your comfort zone, which is normal. So then if you do not mention the PI's name, it might just be one of those random people they put into, your interview committee. And then you must, I encourage you to read his, web page, ask one or two questions, even though it's not in your, because of course this person will also assess you, and his decision will form part of whether you'll be, taking or not. So you want to also present yourself as a very good student, as a curious and somebody that understands science to some extent, even though his area may not be related to what you do. But then it's okay to read his webpage, get an idea of what he does, and probably have one or two questions, and let him know that that is not what you're interested in. But since he's part of your committee, you have to read up what he's doing to be able to have one or two questions. So we understand that you actually know what you're doing. So,
right.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Stick to your guns. Stick to what you're interested in. Don't try to, the person already read your documents at this point, so they understand what you're interested in. So don't try to be what you don't want to be at this point. So Kenneth, do you have any addition to that?
Yeah, that's just stick to your zone. I think maybe she's just part of the department's recruiting committee or stuff. So that's why she's there. Yeah. So just stay in your zone. Continue with the story you have already.
The person would, I don't think it would be unfair to ask you field specific questions in her area, but there are a lot of questions they can ask to see if you're a good fit. Just everything surrounding what we have talked about today, that they already know what they have in the department. So when they're asking you of your interests and everything, if you tell them what you're interested in, the person will know that there are people in this department that can help you get that. So that it might just be the turn of that person to chair the committee this year. So it happens. Can you repeat the second question? We have to leave in like 5 minutes.
The second part, given the fact that I have to review the publications, the lab, and what these professors are doing, because the thing is, I don't know the other two members, and I'm suspecting that they're going to come from those who are listed in my SOP, because the email also have it that they will try to match me with professors that I mentioned during my SOP write-up. So what I'm asking is it nice that the notebook I'm going to carry for the interview, because when they are talking, I should be able to jot it down. Will it make sense if I already put in then aside my questions I want to ask them about the particular researches these professors are into and what they have done? And when I want to ask them a question, in case I forget, I should be able to flip through the note and ask, does it connote any level of seriousness or not being prepared for the interview? That's my question. That's the second part. I don't know if it's well gotten.
I think I'll let Yemi and Kenneth handle that.
Yeah, Kenneth, are you on? Yeah, I think Kenneth is away. So from me, okay, Kenneth is back. Please, can you take?
Yeah, you can start. I will.
Okay, so for me, it is okay for you to have a jotter. In fact, when you're discussing with professor, and professor is talking about his or her research, and you are putting down some notes, well, it does not mean a negative thing to you. And it does not paint you in a negative way. As a matter of fact, if it does anything, it should be a positive way, meaning that you are putting down some things you have to learn after the interview, right? Then if there are points you want to also raise, probably you want to ask a question and you want to check it from your jotter, of course, you don't want to just put your face away from the screen and begin to read from your jotter. You just want to scan through one time and then pick up your question and ask,
Right.
So you don't want to disengage yourself from the screen and begin to read from the paper. So if it's just for you to look at your jotter just for 1 second to pick your question and then come back to the screen, like they will hardly know that you even look away, that's fine.
Yeah, it's okay to have notes. That's okay. They understand you are going to meet with a lot of people. So I don't think that's a problem, but you don't want to be reading anytime you have something to say. So a question in the chat before we close. After admission acceptance, what is next? What is the next step for applicants? Drink a lot of bottles. Well, first, thank God. Drink a lot of, go and celebrate before you even think of the next thing. But yeah, let me maybe Kenneth should start with that. So what are the next steps briefly?
Yeah, I say a long journey ahead, but at least if you can get the funding and admission, I think the first thing just like I initially doctor told me just to go and enjoy it today, and yeah, I had to dance my life away everything that night. Well, after that, I now have to face the journey of you pay your service fee, which is $350. You pay service fee, you pay visa fee, which is around 72,000 naira now. Then you start the hustle of looking for visa interview dates, which is why it's always advisable to get your admission and everything on time. If you get it on time, it helps you to start working, for your visa interview dates on time. Get your visa interview date, start preparing for visa interview itself, get your visa and start working about coming down. But the most important thing is getting the offer now.
Right. Every other thing is easy.
Yeah, I'm done, Doc.
Yeah, every other thing is easy. When you get to the visa interview stage, we have a comprehensive training on bestmanacademy.com. Please check that out. It's called Blazing Your Visa Interview. It's free. So so far we have 100% success rate with that. So please do when you get to that point. So after admission, you get your I-20 and all the other process continues. So we have to leave at this point. I need to absolutely respect the time of these great men. Man, guys, you don't understand what a PhD is. For them to give us almost 2.5 hours of their time, on a Sunday before, I know they probably have maybe assignments due or something, or papers due. So I'm really, really grateful to Yemi and Kenneth. Man, you guys are special. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for coming. And I hope that you guys will connect with them on social media. So they are on Instagram. Oh, I said Instagram, sorry. Yeah, I think Kenneth is on Instagram. I don't know if Yemi is on Instagram.
Yeah, I am.
Really? Okay, okay. So they're on Instagram, LinkedIn, I think. So what's your favorite way for them to connect if they want? Please say
LinkedIn
that.
is the best for now.
Sorry?
LinkedIn is the best for now.
All right. So LinkedIn, Opeyemi Imodoye, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Opeyemi Imodoye. What about Kenneth? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, any of them. I'm active on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Yeah, I would definitely respond to any of them.
All right. So when I render this video, I'm going to put it in the description so you guys can see their social media links. But please do not disturb them too much. They are very busy people. So again, thank you so much, guys, for coming to share.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Doc, for the opportunity.
So that's it. We are going to end here. Please, you can subscribe to bestmanacademy.com on our website so you can get information on when we will have another live. I'm actually hoping to bring someone who didn't have funding initially, but eventually got funding. So how to handle all that parts of grad school admission. We'll talk about that in the next coming weeks. And I just want to reiterate that not all programs require interview. Okay, there are some that you will just see admission or funding letter straight away in some cases. So someone had that question, and I just wanted to mention that. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and I hope you guys will have a wonderful rest of your day or night if you're in Africa. All right, bye.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah, bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.
So,
Bye.